Welcome back to the deep dive. So today we're really digging into a fascinating market, Jamaica's real estate scene. We're looking at it from a slightly different angle, though.
Yeah, we're not just looking at listings. We're trying to understand the mechanics, the thinking behind, and maybe the future strategy of a key digital platform there.
Yeah.
It's all about adding, layers of verification and trust.
Exactly. Transparency, confidence, that sort of thing, especially in a market that historically could be a bit, well, tricky to navigate.
Right. And for this deep dive, our source material is really focused. It's centered around this platform called Jamaica Homes. We've got access to how they operate, their verification rules, a whole set of financial calculators they offer, these really expensive knowledge guides,
Okay.
and maybe most interestingly, some forward-looking articles they published, specifically thinking about 2026 and how Jamaica might handle, global economic pressures.
So the mission today, for you listening, is really about clarity. We want to break down how this platform, Jamaica Homes, basically acts as a filter, maybe a shortcut.
Yeah, a shortcut to getting properly informed. It's aimed at buyers, sellers, renters, but there seems to be a real focus on returning residents, people moving back to Jamaica, helping them get up to speed quickly and safely.
Avoiding that feeling of being overwhelmed, or worse, getting caught out by bad information.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So let's set the stage. What is Jamaica Homes? The sources define it as a trusted digital marketing platform. It's also a listing gateway. It's been around since August 2021.
Okay, but there's a key development recently.
Yes, a really important one. Since April 2025, the founder, Dean Jones, isn't just running the site. He's also a licensed realtor associate with Coldwell Banker Jamaica Realty, and he manages the platform through that professional role.
Right, hold on. That's significant because that's not just a name association. That means the platform itself is now plugged directly into a major established brokerage.
Precisely. It brings professional standards, compliance, the works, right into how the website operates. It adds a layer of accountability.
Accountability not just to website users, but to the rules and ethics of the formal real estate industry via Coldwell Banker.
Exactly. And that directly tackles what the source material calls the historical problem of trust in Jamaican real estate. The whole idea, the founding mission, was apparently to bring more order, more tech, and crucially more verifiable trust to the process.
Because traditionally, finding reliable, vetted information could be a challenge.
It could be, yeah. So the platform aimed for a more organized, trustworthy approach than maybe just, random listings scattered everywhere.
Okay, so how do they actually build that trust? Because saying you're trustworthy online is easy. What's the mechanism? It sounds like they've put up a real barrier to entry for listings.
They really have. It's not just talk. There's a hard rule.
Right.
Any property submission, doesn't matter if it's from an owner, a landlord, a big developer, it has to go through a mandatory documentation verification process.
Mandatory verification. Okay.
And not just automated checks. Each one has to be personally reviewed and approved by Dean Jones himself before it can appear on the site.
Wow, okay. That's a serious bottleneck. But in a good way, right? For quality control.
Absolutely. It means someone can't just quickly upload a few photos and some basic details. They need to be ready with paperwork.
Like proof of ownership, titled documents, maybe planning permissions if it's a development.
Exactly, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
It forces the lister to be compliant before the property even reaches the public eye. So the user, the potential buyer or renter, is starting from a much safer place. They know the property is real, it's legally sound, basically.
That significantly cuts down the risk for the user.
It has to. And the ability to actually run this kind of hands-on, detailed verification seems to come directly from the founder's background. Dean Jones has this quite unique combination of skills.
This is where it gets really interesting, I thought. He's not just a realtor associate dealing with the sales side. The sources really stress this. He's also a chartered builder and project manager.
Yes, that's the key differentiator. Think about it. He understands the contracts, the marketing, the legal side of selling, but also the physical side, the construction, the engineering, site management, architecture.
The actual bricks and mortar, or concrete and steel, as it were.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
The sources describe him as a bridge between property marketing and professional real estate services.
Yeah.
It means when he's looking at a listing or even writing one of those guides we mentioned, he's wearing two hats.
Right. Is it legally okay to sell? And also, is it structurally sound? Is it built properly?
Exactly. Two critical losses. And this isn't just theoretical knowledge. His standards are apparently shaped by some pretty serious international project experience.
Yeah, I saw that. The sources mention work on major UK projects, things like the UK House of Commons security program. That sounds intense.
It does. Also, the MKU Smart Campus and the Metropolitan Police Counterterrorism Hub. These aren't small local developments.
No way. And you think about the level of detail, the security protocols, the compliance, the anti-corruption measures. Building something like a police counterterrorism hub in London, that requires extreme rigor.
Absolutely. So the implication is, if you bring that level of operational discipline, that demand for quality materials, strict code adherence, perfect documentation,
And apply it to vetting a house listing in, say, Ocho Rios.
you see the connection immediately.
Hmm.
It suggests a commitment to higher standards across the board. It's applying those global high-stakes project management principles to local real estate integrity.
Okay, so that explains the how of the verification. What about the platform itself as a business?
The sources say it's a non-commercial, privately operated site. The main goals seem to be twofold: attract serious, qualified users, people actually looking to buy or rent, not just browsing randomly, and maintain those really strict listing standards through that human verification process. It's about building trust and cutting down on potential fraud.
And with the Coldwell Banker link, those verified listings get a pretty wide reach, don't they?
Huge reach. They're not just isolated on JamaicaHomes.com, they get syndicated. They appear on Coldwell Banker Jamaica Realty's platforms, across the Jamaica Homes, social media, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, X, Pinterest, LinkedIn, the whole suite.
And potentially even wider.
Potentially, yes. Because of the formal realtor connection, they could be pushed out through the multiple listing service, MLS, to other Jamaican real estate platforms too.
So it's maximum visibility, but for listings that have already passed that initial tough verification hurdle, the user sees it and knows it's already been checked out.
That's the idea. Trust built in from the start.
Okay, so verification is pillar one, making sure the property itself is legitimate. But the next big hurdle for anyone buying is usually the money, the finances. How does the platform help people figure that part out with confidence?
Right, that leads us to the second pillar, the tools for preparation. They offer a set of 12 specialized property calculators. This really shows a focus on empowering the user, helping them plan before they even talk to a bank or a lawyer.
12 is quite a few. Let's maybe dig into some of the more specific or unusual ones. Given the founder's building background, that construction calculator sounds particularly relevant.
It really does. Because figuring out the cost to actually build a house in Jamaica can be really complex, right? You've got import duties on materials, local price fluctuations, different standards for finishes. It's not straightforward.
So this tool aims to give people a realistic starting point.
An initial estimate, yeah. And it sounds like it needs pretty detailed input, not just a rough guess. You'd likely need to put in things like square footage, the quality of finish you want, standard, luxury, something custom, maybe even the location, because that affects labor costs.
It forces you to think through the project details right at the start, not just have a vague budget number in your head.
Exactly. It makes you think like a project manager, even if you're just planning. And it ties in perfectly with all the home building guides they offer.
Makes sense. Now, for most people just buying an existing property, the affordability calculator must be the first stop.
Absolutely essential. How much can you actually afford based on your income, your debts? It forces that reality check up front. Before you fall in love with that beachfront villa that's way out of reach.
We've all been there, window shopping online.
Haven't we just? Then for investors, or maybe people buying a second home, they might rent out sometimes. The rental yield calculator.
Crucial for investment decisions.
Totally. It calculates your potential return as a percentage of the property's cost, helps you see if it's likely to be a good income generator or just, well, an expensive holiday home. It's about making a smart financial move.
And what about the rent versus buy calculator? That seems particularly relevant for people relocating, maybe testing the waters.
Exactly. For returning residents or even long-term expats, it tackles that big question. Does it make more financial sense to keep renting long-term or to take the plunge, buy, build equity, but also take on the costs of ownership? It helps with that strategic decision.
And they cover the basics too, like down payments, closing costs.
Oh yeah, all the standard stuff is there too. Down payment calculator, various mortgage calculators for repayments, and importantly, the closing costs calculator.
That one's vital in Jamaica, isn't it? The closing costs can be quite substantial and sometimes unexpected.
They really can. You've got stamp duty, transfer tax, legal fees.
Yep.
It all adds up. This calculator tries to estimate those additional costs so you know the total cash you'll likely need, not just the purchase price.
Now, with all these financial tools, there must be a disclaimer, right? They can't be giving binding financial advice.
Absolutely, and the sources are very clear on this. There's a mandatory disclaimer on all the calculators. It states very clearly that the results are estimates. They're based on general assumptions.
So you still need to talk to the professionals.
100%. The site explicitly tells users they must confirm the actual figures with their bank, their lender, their attorney. It's non-negotiable.
Which is responsible. It's guiding people towards professional advice, not replacing it. It makes them informed clients.
Exactly. You use the calculator to get a good idea, then you go to your lawyer or banker with smart, targeted questions. You're prepared.
Speaking of being prepared, let's move to the third pillar, the knowledge base. The sheer amount of information available in their property guides sounds immense.
It really is. The sources mention nearly 500 articles across different categories. It's tailored for everyone involved: buyers, sellers, renters, landlords, students. But again, a very strong emphasis on the specific needs and questions of returning residents.
Okay, 500 articles is a library. Let's break it down. What are the key themes? I saw a big focus on legal and ownership complexity. That sounds daunting.
It can be, and the platform seems to tackle it head-on. They have guides specifically on how to get a title for land that might not be formally registered. This is a huge issue in Jamaica, sometimes called dead left property.
Land passed down through generations without proper paperwork.
Exactly. It can lock up family assets for years. So the guides dig into the relevant laws, like the Registration of Titles Act, which covers how titles work, and crucially, the Intestates, Estates, and Property Charges Act.
Okay, what does that second one cover? Intestates estates.
That deals with what happens when someone dies without a will, which unfortunately happens a lot. Understanding that act is key to sorting out who inherits what, especially when the original ownership might be unclear. It helps families navigate that complex process legally.
So they're untangling potentially very complicated family and legal histories.
They're providing the information needed to start that process, yes. They even get into really specific legal concepts, like does adverse possession, squatters' rights basically apply to government-owned crown land? Probably not, but they discuss it. Or the rights of co-owners if they have a falling out. Can one force the sale of a jointly owned property?
These are tricky, real-world situations.
Definitely. They're anticipating the tough questions people will face. It's about giving that initial legal literacy.
Okay, that's the legal side. What about the returning resident experience? You mentioned a strong focus there.
Yes, this seems like a core audience. The guides acknowledge the unique challenges, practical, financial, even emotional race, of moving back after potentially decades away.
I saw a title like, From London to Jamaica, The Untold Truth About Returning Home. That sounds refreshingly honest.
It suggests they're not just painting a rosy picture, they're tackling the realities. The guides cover practical stuff like tax implications, really important for U.S. and Canadian citizens moving back. How does living in Jamaica affect their taxes back home?
Crucial information.
And things like how to extend your stay if you're just testing the waters initially. Plus, the notorious hurdles of shipping your belongings, dealing with customs, import duties, all that logistical stuff.
Getting your container cleared can be a saga, I hear.
It can be. And importantly, the platform seems to connect these modern-day challenges to history. They specifically mention the Windrush generation.
Ah, right. The Jamaicans who went to the UK after WWII lives there, and now many are considering returning, or their children are.
Exactly. The platform frames the return journey within that historical context of leaving, building abroad, and the complex decision to come home. It links the property search to identity, heritage, roots.
That's quite powerful. It's framing buying a home as more than just a transaction. It's part of a life story, a return.
It seems so, yes. Now, the third big knowledge area taps right back into the founder's other expertise, home building and development. There are apparently 142 articles just on this.
Wow, a whole construction manual online.
Pretty much. It covers the entire process, from the very beginning how to choose a good contractor, thinking about sustainable design that suits the climate, right through to the bureaucratic side, like navigating the building plan process to get your permits from the parish council, ensuring everything's compliant.
And does it get technical, given the founder's background?
Well, yeah. The sources mention very specific practical details, like discussions on using steel fabric in swimming pool construction. That's getting into the weeds of construction methods.
Definitely not your average real estate blog topic.
No. And they also stress the absolute necessity of using hurricane straps when building roofs.
Which is non-negotiable in the Caribbean, surely.
It should be. Explicitly highlighting it shows a real focus on building for resilience, for safety, for durability against extreme weather. It's translating that high-stakes construction knowledge into advice for homeowners. Build it right, build it strong.
Build it to last. Okay, and there was one more area of guidance.
Yes, market safety and integrity. A set of guides, about 8 articles, focused on protecting the user. Tips on how to spot and avoid property scams, advice on data protection, they mention their own site, uses HTTPA, SDL, SSL, and awareness about cybercrime risks, especially with large financial transactions.
So it's a full circle approach. Verify the property, help with finances, provide deep knowledge, and warn about potential dangers.
It shows a sense of responsibility for the user's entire journey, not just the listing part, structure and safety.
Okay, let's shift gears from the knowledge base, which is kind of static information, to the dynamic market itself. The platform also offers forward-looking analysis, particularly about the economy.
Yes, this is where it gets quite strategic. They published articles back in October 2025 looking ahead, asking tough questions, like, can Jamaica's housing market weather a global downturn in 2026?
A very relevant question given global uncertainty.
And another piece titled, When the Ground Moves, Jamaica's Housing Market and the Weight of a World in Turmoil. They weren't shying away from the potential headwinds.
So what was their outlook for 2026? Did they predict a crash?
Not exactly a crash. The analysis suggested the market was heading for strategic shifts. While acknowledging the pressures global inflation, rising interest rates internationally, geopolitical issues, they argue that the Jamaican market has some built-in shock absorbers.
Internal resilience factors, like what?
Yeah. Things like strong foreign currency inflows, especially from remittances from Jamaicans abroad, and the continued growth of the business process outsourcing BPO sector. These keep money flowing into the economy.
Okay, so they weren't predicting doom and gloom, but maybe a change.
Exactly. The phrasing used was evocative, a market balancing patience, pressure, and possibility. And they even floated the idea that 2026 could be Jamaica's year of bold homecomings.
Bold homecomings, suggesting people might still move back despite the global economy.
That seems to be the implication. Their theory was termed confidence, construction, and a quiet correction. The idea being that local confidence plus ongoing construction projects would prevent a sharp downturn. Instead, the global pressures might just lead to a needed slowdown, a stabilization, maybe prices correcting a bit from recent highs, rather than a collapse.
A correction, not a catastrophe. That's a more nuanced take. Did they point to specific examples supporting this idea of continued confidence in construction?
Yes, they highlighted specific developments. One area mentioned was Mammy Bay Mammy River in St. Anne. It was described as Jamaica's new coastal sanctuary.
Mammy Bay, okay. Known for its beaches.
Right. And the focus there was on significant, potentially large-scale sustainable development. They specifically mentioned CHE's vision for sustainable living, CHEC being China Harbor Engineering Company, a major international player.
So big investment, planned communities, that signals confidence.
It suggests a move towards higher-end, well-managed coastal developments, which fits that confidence in construction narrative. It also requires serious project management, linking back again to the platform's core expertise.
And there was another major project mentioned, something quite tall.
Ah, yes, the Pinnacle in Montego Bay. This is described as said to be Jamaica's tallest residential building, a 28-story tower.
28 stories in Mobay, that's a statement. What did the analysis say about that? Building that high in a hurricane zone must raise questions.
It does. The discussion apparently focused on the specialized engineering required, the materials, the foundation design, and crucially, the advanced hurricane-ready measures needed. Things likely going well beyond the basic building code to ensure it can withstand major storms and potential seismic activity.
So the Pinnacle itself becomes a symbol of applying top-tier engineering standards to Jamaican development, a physical manifestation of the principles the platform talks about.
Exactly. It's a proof point for that blend of ambition and resilience.
This focus on architecture, design, and resilience seems like a good bridge to the platform's content magazine, NEM. Tell us about that. What does NEM offer?
So NEM, which they explain means your taste of Jamaican real estate, seems to be where the platform explores the soul of property in Jamaica. It moves beyond just the deals and the data.
Getting into the culture, the style, the stories behind the spaces.
Precisely. It's crucial for that returning resident audience who are often looking for a connection, not just a house.
What kind of topics does it cover? I saw a focus on architecture and design.
Yes, with articles like A House That Breathes, Notes on the Future of Jamaican Architecture. That title itself is interesting.
A house that breathes. What does that suggest? Climate smart design.
Exactly. Designing with the tropical climate, not fighting it. Things like maximizing natural ventilation, using materials that handle humidity well, smart shading, integrating the outdoors. It explores that balance between preserving older heritage homes and embracing new modern designs.
Do they showcase specific examples?
Yeah, they look at architectural projects.
Hmm.
Places like Tower Isle are mentioned as sort of quiet experiment in design. They discuss trends like bamboo homes, which is fascinating from a sustainability angle, and detailed looks at specific residences, like the avian residence, exploring the design philosophy. It shows Jamaican architecture isn't static, it's evolving.
And this connects to a deeper theme in Enyam, something about land and identity.
Very much so. The magazine apparently pushes the idea that in Jamaica, land, history, and identity are deeply intertwined. There's a quote, "Land is more than soil and stone. It is identity, history, and hope."
That really frames ownership in a powerful cultural context.
It does. And they connect this to national events and history. They had content for Jamaica National Heroes Day 2025 called "The Land They Freed," linking the fight for freedom directly to owning land.
That's a profound connection to make on a real estate platform.
It is. They also feature historical pieces that add context to today's market. Articles about the history and contribution of the Chinese community in Jamaica, and again, revisiting the story and the impact of the Windrush generation, especially their return.
So understanding the history helps you understand the meaning of owning property there today.
That seems to be the goal. To show that buying or building isn't just a financial decision, it's often a deeply emotional and culturally significant one, connecting modern real estate back to heritage, community, even resistings like the Maroons.
And to bring it all together, the verification, the tools, the knowledge, the cultural insight, do they show proof that this approach actually works for people?
Yes, the sources include specific client testimonials, and they're not just generic praise, they sound like real stories.
Like who?
There's Nellis and Jerome, a retired nurse and counselor who moved back from London. They specifically mentioned the platform's expertise helped them navigate their retirement relocation successfully.
Okay, a successful return.
Then there's Michelle, described as a medic. She first used the platform just to find a temporary rental, but based on that positive experience, she's now planning to use the founders team to actually build her permanent home there.
That shows trust built over time, from renting to building.
Exactly. And another couple, Yvonne and Leon, a retired accountant and leisure center manager, also moved from London. They actually had their dream home built with the team's help and said they felt 100% confident throughout the whole process.
Confidence is the key word there. These stories seem to validate the whole model that combining the professional real estate side with deep construction knowledge and all that guidance leads to successful outcomes for people making these huge life changes.
It really closes the loop. It shows the value isn't just theoretical, it translates into people achieving their goals, whether it's relocating or building from scratch.
Okay, so let's try and wrap this up. We've dived pretty deep into how this platform, Jamaica Homes, operates. If we boil it down, what are the key takeaways?
I think there are three core pillars we've identified. First, that unwavering commitment to verification and professional standards. It's built on that foundation of the founder's dual expertise, the realtor and the chartered builder perspective. That's quite unique.
Right, the trust factor enforced through process.
Second is the focus on empowerment through tools. Those comprehensive financial calculators help people prepare, plan, and budget realistically for what's often a complex financial undertaking, but always with the ethical guidance to seek final professional advice.
Preparation and planning. And the third.
Third is understanding the market isn't just numbers. It's about culture, history, and looking ahead. That's where the NWAM magazine content comes in, and also that strategic analysis, like the 2026 outlook, which provides critical foresight rather than just rearview mirror data.
Verification, tools, and context. It sounds like a pretty robust approach.
For anyone trying to navigate the Jamaican market, especially if you're coming from overseas, that kind of structured, verified information combined with cultural understanding seems incredibly valuable. It provides a pathway through the potential confusion, actionable confidence, as you said.
Okay, which leads us to our final thought for you, the listener, to ponder. We've talked a lot about Dean Jones's background managing these high-security, incredibly complex construction projects in the UK, like the House of Commons security upgrade, the Met Police counterterrorism hub.
Right, environments where failure is not an option and standards are sky high.
Exactly. And then we see his insistence on rigorous verification for listings in Jamaica, the emphasis on things like hurricane straps, building resilience, the focus on engineering in projects like the Pinnacle. So here's the question. What does this merger of global high-stakes security and construction discipline with the very personal, very cultural act of building or buying a home in Jamaica? What does that mean for the future resilience of Jamaican real estate?
Hmm, that's a big question. Is this the new benchmark?
Could it be? Is applying that level of rigor, usually reserved for critical infrastructure, to the residential sector the way forward for building not just homes but overall market trust and resilience, especially in a place facing climate change and global economic waves?
Based on what we've seen, the standard being set here feels significant. It suggests that maybe, yes, that level of structural integrity, that provable quality assurance that comes from serious construction expertise is becoming table stakes for earning trust in the digital age of real estate.
So not just a nice to have, but a fundamental requirement.
Potentially. This model, where deep professional verification underpins the entire platform, could be incredibly relevant for other island economies too, right? Places also dealing with rapid development, climate risks, and the need to protect consumers and investors. It sets a precedent.
A fascinating precedent indeed, something to definitely keep an eye on. Thank you for digging into this with us today.
My pleasure. Lots to think about.
Absolutely. We'll see you next time on The Deep Dive.